Imagine a ship carrying thousands of cars across an ocean, but the surprising part isn't what's inside. It's who owns the ship. This isn't a traditional shipping company vessel. It belongs to one of the world's fastest-growing automakers. Behind those steel walls is something that looks less like a ship and more like a floating skyscraper. Inside are thousands of vehicles waiting to leave China and reach customers on the other side of the world. And that creates a question most car buyers never think about. How does the finished car actually reach them? Before a vehicle appears at a dealership, it may travel through an enormous hidden logistics system. For decades, automakers built the cars while specialized shipping companies handled the oceans. That arrangement worked because shipping companies already possessed the vessels, routes, crews, ports, and experience. But China's extraordinary automotive export growth began putting pressure on that old system. And one automaker decided that waiting for shipping capacity was no longer good enough. Imagine producing cars faster than the global transportation system can move them. The factory keeps producing, but thousands of finished vehicles can become stranded simply because ships are unavailable. And transporting cars is not as simple as putting them inside an ordinary container. Modern vehicle carriers are essentially floating multi-level parking structures designed around the dimensions of automobiles. Cars can drive directly aboard through enormous ramps instead of being lifted individually by cranes. That makes the specialized vehicle carrier one of the most efficient ways to move thousands of cars across an ocean. But the global vehicle carrier fleet had another problem. Much of its capacity was aging. Then Chinese vehicle exports began accelerating at exactly the moment shipping capacity was under pressure.
Of the automotive industry across the globe.
The result was a classic industrial bottleneck, too many cars chasing too little transportation capacity. And BYD's answer was radical. Instead of simply renting ships, build its own. The decision was possible because BYD sits inside an industrial ecosystem already capable of building enormous ships. A modern vehicle carrier begins as thousands of tons of steel transformed into a highly specialized machine. BYD's first dedicated carrier, Explorer Number 1, marked the beginning of a completely different logistics strategy. For the first time, a major automaker was placing its own transportation infrastructure directly into the global export chain. The strategic advantage isn't simply owning steel. It is having greater control over when that steel moves. A controlled vessel can become another link between the factory and the overseas customer. But controlling a ship does not mean controlling the ocean. The world's shipping system remains enormous, fragmented and far larger than any single automaker. So the real story isn't that BYD owns the world's shipping lanes. The real story is that BYD is trying to make shipping part of its competitive advantage.
Moving thousands of vehicles across the vast ocean routes every day.
And this strategy becomes much more powerful when you look at where the ships are being built. China has spent decades developing one of the world's largest shipbuilding industries. That means the country producing enormous numbers of vehicles also possesses enormous capacity to build the ships carrying them. Factories, shipyards, and ports become connected pieces of the same industrial ecosystem. That changes the economics of moving manufactured products across the planet. A car company that needs another vessel can operate much closer to the world's largest shipbuilding network. And BYD's shipping strategy is part of a much larger transformation in Chinese industrial logistics. Vehicles can move from factory to port in a highly coordinated export pipeline. And once the ships leave, the factory's production capacity becomes connected directly to overseas demand. This is where a car manufacturer begins to look less like a traditional automaker and more like an industrial system. To understand why these ships matter, you have to see what they actually are. They are essentially enormous floating garages engineered to move thousands of vehicles efficiently. Instead of one giant open cargo space, the ship contains layer after layer of usable deck area. Some decks can even be raised or lowered to accommodate different types of vehicles. Small passenger cars can be packed efficiently when the available vertical space is limited. Raise the deck, and the same vessel can handle taller and larger vehicles. That flexibility is one reason these specialized ships can carry extraordinary amounts of automotive cargo. But electric vehicles introduce another consideration: large high-voltage battery systems. Modern vehicle carriers therefore require carefully designed detection and fire suppression systems. What looks like a simple ship from outside is actually an enormous industrial machine. BYD's newer vessels also reveal another part of the strategy: fuel efficiency and future regulation. The ships are designed around engines capable of operating with lower emission fuel configurations. Every component is engineered around the reality that the vessel may operate for decades. Once underway, the vessel becomes a self-contained logistics platform traveling thousands of nautical miles. But the ocean doesn't care how sophisticated the logistics plan is. Storms, currents and weather can add uncertainty to even the most carefully scheduled voyage. And every day at sea brings fuel costs, maintenance demands, and operational risk. That's the hidden cost behind every vehicle that crosses an ocean. But once the ship arrives, another strategic advantage appears. BYD has moved its cars across the ocean without depending entirely on another company's vessel. Europe is one of the most important destinations in BYD's global expansion. Chinese electric vehicles are increasingly present in markets that were once dominated almost entirely by European manufacturers. And the competition is no longer only about technology or price. It is also about how efficiently a company can move its products across continents. And that is where trade policy enters the equation. A ship can cross a border, but it cannot make tariffs disappear. That is why overseas manufacturing could eventually become just as important as overseas shipping. The closer a vehicle is built to its customer, the less ocean transportation it requires. But for the cars still built in China, the ocean remains absolutely critical. And Europe may become one of the biggest tests of BYD's shipping strategy. Now consider the world's largest consumer market, the United States. The American market operates under a very different set of trade and industrial rules. Trade barriers can matter just as much as shipping capacity. Having a ship does not guarantee access to every market. Domestic production can completely change the economics of automotive competition. If the vehicle is built locally, there is no ocean voyage to optimize. That creates an important limit to the shipping strategy. BYD can control more transportation capacity, but it cannot control the policies of every destination. So the real question isn't whether BYD can ship cars. The question is where those cars can actually be sold. Outside the biggest Western markets, another part of the story is unfolding. Markets across Australia, Southeast Asia, and other regions are becoming increasingly important destinations. These markets can provide enormous opportunities for Chinese automakers expanding overseas. Latin America is another increasingly important destination for Chinese-made vehicles. Here, shipping capacity can directly connect Chinese factories with rapidly developing electric vehicle markets. The same ships can redirect toward markets across the Middle East. And potentially toward African markets as electric mobility expands. This is why the fleet matters. The ships can move wherever demand appears. China's export system becomes more flexible when transportation capacity grows alongside production. And that brings us to the part of the strategy that could become its greatest weakness. The ship arrives carrying thousands of vehicles. Then the cars leave the ship, one by one, heading toward dealerships and customers. And suddenly, the enormous space that was full of vehicles becomes almost completely empty. But the ship still has to go home. The engines still consume fuel. The crew and maintenance costs remain. Every mile still costs money, whether the decks are full or empty. That is why traditional shipping companies spend decades building complicated two-way networks. The goal is to keep ships productive in both directions whenever possible. A global carrier can mix customers, cargoes, and destinations to reduce wasted capacity. A dedicated automaker fleet has a harder problem. Its cargo is concentrated around one company's export system. This empty return voyage may be the weakest point in the entire strategy. But the weakness could also become an opportunity. If unused capacity can carry other customers' cargo, the return voyage suddenly becomes valuable. And the ship stops being merely a BYD logistics tool. It begins to look like the foundation of a shipping business. Imagine several automakers competing for the same customers while sharing the same ship. That could turn unused transportation capacity into a commercial asset. Instead of simply moving BYD vehicles, the fleet could potentially support a broader logistics network. And that creates an unusual relationship between manufacturer and competitor. A competitor could theoretically become a customer of the transportation system built by BYD. That is where a shipping strategy begins turning into industrial power. Control of logistics creates another layer of influence over the supply chain. The factory produces the vehicle. The port connects it to the ocean. And the ship completes another link in an increasingly integrated industrial chain. But BYD ships are only one piece of a much larger transformation. BYD's story began long before the ships, with batteries and energy technology. Then came electric motors, electronics, and complete vehicle manufacturing. The company expanded from components into complete vehicles. Then those vehicles needed a global transportation system. And now ships are becoming another part of the equation. The deeper you look, the more interconnected the system becomes. Materials become batteries. Batteries become vehicles. Vehicles become exports. And the ocean becomes the bridge between the factory and the world. That is much bigger than a shipping experiment. It is a new way of thinking about industrial control. But BYD's strategy has a powerful counterforce: local manufacturing. Factories built closer to customers can eventually reduce the need for ocean transport. The same principle applies across emerging manufacturing hubs. The more vehicles are produced locally, the less important the ocean becomes for those particular cars. And there is another danger. Eventually, there could simply be too many vehicle carriers. A ship is a long-term asset that cannot be switched off when demand falls. A fleet that looks brilliant during a shortage can become expensive during an oversupply. And tariffs and regulations can change much faster than ships can. Every new vessel represents a long-term bet on how global trade will look years from now. And nobody knows exactly what that world will look like. So perhaps the biggest BYD advantage isn't the ships themselves. It is the ability to connect many parts of the industrial chain. Scale allows every individual part of that system to reinforce the others. More cars create demand for more transportation. More transportation capacity allows more cars to reach distant markets. And successful exports can justify even more manufacturing and logistics investment. That creates a feedback loop between manufacturing scale and transportation scale. And that may be the deeper reason BYD's shipping strategy matters. It demonstrates how transportation itself can become part of industrial competition. Because whoever controls how efficiently a product moves has another form of competitive power. BYD is not taking over the world's oceans. But it is challenging an old assumption about how an automaker should operate. The factory is no longer necessarily the end of the manufacturer's responsibility. The future may belong to companies that control not only what they manufacture, but how it reaches the world. The ocean has always moved the world's economy. BYD may be showing us what happens when manufacturers decide to control that journey too.